On this episode of Amor al Migrante, the U.S. government tried to shut down 2 of Estrella del Paso's legal programs. We talked to members of those teams about how they are changing lives every day and why their work is more important than ever.
Would service anyone who was unrepresented, anyone who had a hearing date in El Paso Immigration Court. We were able to provide at least information to them.
He was in fact placed in deportation proceedings because he missed his court date because he wasn't there.
Sometimes people think like, all right, well, I got my deportation order, right? And I'm just going to go back to my country. Most likely, you're going to be placed back at the detention centers.
And then we have people who charges $1,000 to submit a document that we do for free.
How long does it take?
Estrella del Paso is suing the federal government, and we're doing it to make sure people facing deportation have access to critical legal programs. Estrella del Paso has joined the Amica Center for Immigrant Rights and other partner organizations in the lawsuit filed January 31st, 2025. We are suing the Department of Justice, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and other defendants in response to a government order on January 22nd that shut down legal access programs, including Estrella del Paso's legal orientation program and Immigration Court Helpdesk. The shutdown is a direct result of the Protecting the American People from Invasion executive order signed on January 20th. While the decision was reversed and services have resumed, we are not backing down from the lawsuit and our fight to ensure these critical services are not threatened in the future and that people trapped in ICE detention and those facing deportation receive the legal support that is their legal right.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Amor al Migrante podcast. As you just heard in that introduction, Estrella del Paso is suing the federal government. That lawsuit is centered around critical services for immigrants who are facing detention. This is an important conversation we want to have because of everything we've heard about mass deportations. And mass deportations essentially mean mass detention because people have a right to due process. That means if you get picked up by Border Patrol or ICE, you're likely going to go into an ICE facility before you get your chance to see an immigration judge. So the federal government's attempt to cut this funding directly affects 2 programs here at Estrella del Paso. That's our legal orientation program and our Immigration Court Helpdesk.
Yes. So today we have 2 of the best persons, or like the best, I guess, speakers from those departments. We have Rene, who is on LOP, right? The legal orientation program. And then we have Alex, who was on ICH, now has transitioned to another department, but still he's an expert in the subject. So welcome, guys, to our podcast. Welcome to this episode of Amor al Migrante.
Thank you, Kristi.
Thank you
for inviting us.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Kristi.
Thank you, guys.
A little
now
nervous, but excited.
Yeah, right.
Very nervous. Fine.
Don't worry. We'll handle this. So right into the questions, right? So for DOJ accreditation, the Department of Justice accreditation, what is it that you guys need to become accredited? Like what's the process? And what is the kind of training you guys have to receive in order for you guys to get like that accreditation?
So,
Okay. I personally...
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Enjoying this podcast? Just a quick reminder, in 2023, Estrella del Paso helped over 7,000 clients with nearly all of the cases being free. This early giving season, every bit of support helps us to continue this essential work. Don't forget to show your support by donating at estrelladelpaso.org. And that's all. Back to the podcast.
Didn't get
The accreditation?
the accreditation because I transferred to another department.
Okay.
But you do need the quality course, but it's provided by clinic. That's the main training that you have to
Okay. To receive? Okay, perfect.
In order to get accredited. And then you also have to complete a legal trainings provided by either the organization or by other organizations.
Nice. And how long is that process? Do you guys know?
So for example, the COIL, and I forgot I just know that it stands something C overview immigration law.
I think that sounds about right.
Comprehensive overview.
There you go. Thank you, Sandra. Nice.
It's a 3-month course that you take, and pretty much it's training about the immigration laws. And then after that, I mean, you do have to get training through observation in the courtrooms. You do pretty much practice at the court, like filing, well, not filing, but I mean helping with immigration forms, and then also just send that letter recommendation to the Department of Justice.
Got it.
That background is super important because it really, it's not just anybody who's going to provide these services that you guys were providing. Like there's qualifications, there's this accreditation process through the Department of Justice, and you guys do the observations, you have to learn all of these things. So you guys are qualified people who went through pretty extensive training to be able to do this job and give the accurate information.
Exactly. And something to point out is that, like Sandra mentioned, not everyone goes there, and it requires time, practice, and of course trainings.
Yeah.
Which, like the intro said, right? I guess, went against the government in this sense, because cutting the funding avoid us. Put us in a situation where we cannot train more people or keep getting updates or trainings or keep even representing people at the courts. So like the funding cutting affects directly this first step, which is the training, the accreditation that you guys receive. Now, I know you guys help or represent two types of persons, right? One of them is going to be detained and the other one is non-detained. So what are the difference between detained and non-detained?
For detained, they're under the custody of either the Office of the Refugee Resettlement or under custody of ICE.
ICE.
Okay. So that'll be the detained.
And when they're in custody, do they put them like in a housing, or where do they usually stay on?
So for the detained people, they are under ICE custody. And they are held in detention centers.
Oh, okay.
So they are very prison-like, jail-like, as you say.
Yeah.
And we at the legal orientation program, we serve two facilities in the area, which is the El Paso Processing Center and the Otero County Processing Center in Chaparral, New Mexico.
Okay. I also previously worked at the unaccompanied minors program, so I know those minors are under the custody of the Office of Refugee Resettlement under the custody of ORR.
Okay.
So after that, they're transferred to or released to their sponsors.
Got it. So just making sure I understand, I got it right. Other in like kids and adults are in the same facilities, or it's different facilities where they have them? Yeah,
no, it's different facilities, like Alex mentioned, right? The minors are probably like in shelters.
Got it.
And my at the legal orientation program, we see them at these facilities. That they're more prison-like. Detention centers.
Oh man. And then for non-detained, those are the ones that we help at the court, right?
That's correct.
They can go to court. And what's that process like because I know sometimes or all the time actually, we go to the courts, but what's the process? How you get like someone assistance that they need at the court process?
Our service, or where I previously worked, the Immigration Court Helpdesk, we service everyone who did not have legal representation. Anyone who arrived at the court with a hearing, that's important. Anyone who had a hearing date, we were able to serve. Anyone who was within our service area, which is El Paso County and Doña Ana County.
Got it.
And some cities in New Mexico, because El Paso Immigration Court services covers a very large region. Yeah. So we would service anyone who was unrepresented, anyone who had a hearing date in El Paso Immigration Court. We were able to provide at least information to them.
Yeah, it's crazy because we're located in El Paso, right? And I can imagine how many people it's affected when we don't provide these services, because it's not only the community of El Paso, like you mentioned, Alex, it's Doña Ana County, and it's people like in cities in Mexico. Yeah. So we have to look at it like on the bigger picture, that is not only our community, it's many different communities that are being affected when we don't get those services, and we don't get to help in that case. So for the two detention centers, you said El Paso and Chaparral. So when you guys go there, what is your day like?
Well, it starts from a day in advance. We do prepare ourselves to provide the services in advance. We do have communication with the detention centers to have them ready for us when we get there, so we can provide the services. The Otero County Processing Center, they already have like a list of people that we're gonna see in our group orientations, which is one of the services that we provide. And we provide general information. We technically educate them in the process that they're about to, do with immigration. And then we also, request to see individuals more privately, so we can get to know their cases individually, right? And then, of course, we do our follow-ups in the facility. El Paso, very similar. The officers, they have a new arrival list, and they pick and choose, right? They base it on females or males, people who have been detained the longest, so it all depends. When we get there, we just see a group of people, and then we provide the services. But at the same time, just like Otero, we also, request individuals, and we tell them in advance, like, hey, we need to see these people. Some of them, they're going to be for an individual orientation, and some of them, they're going to be our follow-ups, people that we're already helping.
Nice.
So you guys go in there and you do the Know Your Rights presentations, you do these group orientations, and then you do the individual ones. What are the most common questions that you get from people when you go to visit the detention centers?
Yeah, well, during our group orientations, and we do that simultaneously. We do that at the same time. While someone is presenting the Know Your Rights presentation, others, they're providing this individual intakes, as you may see, right, or individual orientations. And some of the questions that they ask us, of course, is, how can I get out of here?
Yeah.
Right.
Question number one.
That'll be my first question for
that
sure.
That is number one.
Help me out.
That is the most common one, and it's obviously right. It's rightfully so. So, we tell them, first off, there's options. There's options, and that's what we are there for, to provide information. We talk about the possibility of being released on bond, right, which is paying an amount of money, so you can have that process outside. And then we also explain parole, and a lot of the times, people in detention from other countries, they never heard these words before, right? It's very new to them. So we make sure that they understand, those options, because they're very important.
Yeah.
It's their freedom, and obviously it's for them, it's much easier if they can have that process outside instead of being detained.
Absolutely.
I think of LOP as, like, if you want it, like, an imagery for it, I think of like superheroes who walk in and there's like music, like, oh, there's like a glow behind you guys. Because if you think about someone who's been detained, right? So someone who's been picked up by Border Patrol, by ICE, you've been dealing with essentially law enforcement since you entered the country.
Right.
And then you're going into these jail-like facilities. You may not speak the language. You may not understand how, you likely don't know how this process works, what's going to happen, what you can expect. And then you have this team of people who comes in and says, hi, we're here to tell you that you have rights, and if you have questions, and we're going to do it all for free.
Right. It's like the Avengers walking into the room, right?
Yeah. No, and honestly, it's very rewarding, right? Because, our job does make a difference. A lot of these people in detention, like you said, it's an obstacle that they're thinking. They're coming to this country, running away, seeking asylum or a better life, and they don't know the law,
right?
And even people, us, the law is complicated. It's it's confusing.
Absolutely.
So imagine someone that it's not part of the culture, or just that language barrier. Another questions that they ask us is like, how long am I going to be here? How long is this process? And unfortunately, that answer, it's we don't have that answer. No one has that answer, right?
Yeah, every process, every case, every person is different, right?
We tell them, like, well, you can expect, you can expect this by, if you're seeking asylum, there's this fear interview that it's provided by the asylum officer that is going to decide your fate ultimately, and then you still have to wait for a court date, so you can present your case with a judge. And then another question that they might ask is, all right, am I going to need an attorney? No, am I going to need a lawyer? What are my rights? Like you mentioned, well, you do have the right to represent yourself or to seek, legal help.
Yeah.
And we provide all this information to them, and it's very helpful because at least they're more prepared.
Yeah. And I think that we really emphasize this a lot, is that immigration court is not like other courts. Like, you don't have a right to an attorney. You can absolutely go in there unrepresented, and they have no problem with that.
Yeah, they will take you.
They're like, that's fine. We don't owe you an attorney. You don't have the legal right to an attorney. Right. So a lot of people won't have that access. That access,
yes. And that's really, really important because it's true. If it's a criminal offense or like regular court that you see on TV shows, like they can assign a public defender, but in this case, it's like you pay for your attorney, or you get someone to help you with that, or you run your own and see if the judge is in a good mood and is going to help you, or he's in a bad mood, and we'll see other options. Yeah. Man, it's tough, and I can imagine what goes through their mind and what goes through you guys' mind too, because like you said, it's rewarding, but at some point I'm pretty sure it can get like overwhelming, which is like, man, like so many lives here, and then I need to provide information, and of course, like, you guys want to do your best. You guys want to answer all the questions. You want to give them all the information they need so they can do their process properly, and they can go ahead and like have a smooth ride, right? But I know it could get at the point where like, man, like, shoot, like, it's so much we can do, and that's all we can do for them to help them. I heard about the staffing processes. I know they get like intense. So what's the staffing process for you guys?
So, for LOP, right, the Legal Orientation Program, after we do this group orientations, and after we talk to them individually, right, and we understand their cases, and they give us permission to share their information with the attorneys at Estrella del Paso, we meet with the attorneys every week. Okay. Every week we present these cases, and the attorneys are able to review the cases and decide if they can help them or not. Unfortunately, they don't take all the cases, but there's a reason behind it, and it's because of lack of resources, right? So we don't have a lot of attorneys. We have 2 attorneys and 1 accredited representative. So you can imagine, people in detention, they're looking for an attorney. They don't have the money to hire one.
Absolutely.
So they're expecting, like, well, if you can do it for free, like, help me. Yeah. But then again, it's a lot of them, for so only 3 people. Yeah, there's so many. Yeah. So, and then also you have, the funding. A lot of the times, we see people in detention that don't speak Spanish or English, right? And we at Estrella, we only speak those 2 languages. Right. So when it comes to the 3rd language speakers, removal, which is the attorneys, right? Removal defense unit, they don't have the funding for the language, line, for that, and that's where we, see the biggest obstacle. It's the difficulties like that. So by staffing those cases. Removal, if they accept it, then it's another service that we provide, is refer them, for representation, and they can help them with their asylum, either cancellation of the removal for people that were residents or they were in the country before, or they can also help them with their parole or bond. And if they don't accept the cases, then it's again up to us, the LOP, to help them pro se, which means that we will help them, guide them all the way till the very end,
to represent themselves.
And we guide them, we educate them, we help them, with translations, right. And to get in contact with family, simple things that you might think, well, what's the big deal, right? Well, it is a
Right.
big deal because,
Of course.
they don't, it's not like they can pick up a phone and call their families, their loved ones, or send a text message.
Yeah.
No, like we're that bridge, for them.
Connection.
And I think that's where the biggest help with is the translation. It's help those third language speakers.
Man, and it goes back to our name, Estrella del Paso, because we go there like Estrella and guide them as much as we can.
I think that's a
gonna-
good.
sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that at the in ICH, the Immigration Court Helpdesk, the referral is a little different because we don't represent respondents, and since they are non-detained, we refer them to our office. So we can, of course, explain to them our services, but we refer them here to our office. I will have to talk to the team, to the unaccompanied minors program, to see how they do staffing now. But at least when I was there, we used to do also like a group session where every caseworker would explain their case to the attorneys, and everyone would give feedback, and then we will decide what to do with the case. So I think that was really valuable because you get to hear feedback from the attorneys,
Right.
feedback from everyone.
Right. Like a lot of info that comes your way for sure.
We talked about. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
We talked about detained and non-detained, and so it's important to recognize that the attorneys in our removal defense unit that you refer these cases to from people who are in a nice facility, that's the same group of attorneys who are taking cases who are referred by ICH. So people who are not being held and they're kind of fighting their case from the outside, they're going to that same group of attorneys and representatives to help with their cases. So there's, I think, but you said the capacity that we have, right? There are far more people who need services than we have that we're able to provide realistically, right? Like responsibly. And I think that one of the reasons we've heard is that those staffing sessions are so intense is because you're basically trying to plead the case, right? You plead this person's case, like, please, attorney, I know you can only take a few of them, but please take this one because, and it gets intense, I imagine.
I mean, you gotta remember, right? Like, emotions, aside, but you do care for these people that you want to, try your best to like give them a chance, and yeah, like you mentioned, those meetings are like, well, can you make an exception? It's not that easy, It has this judge.
It's hard. And now imagine, right? Going back to the funding, and I'm like putting my finger in there like as hard as I can, because I want to raise as much as awareness as I could raise, not only for like donations, but like also for people to raise their voices, right? Can you imagine yourself, like you're used to it, see you guys walking into the room, giving that presentation, and then we have the attorneys going there, trying to go ahead and take your case. And then from one day to another, that's it. You don't see them. They don't go in there. There's no more attorneys. There's no more people telling me what to do. People kept like accessing those detention centers. We have people walking in, we have new intakes, but they don't get the information that you guys get, right? Because you guys have stopped going. Like once they cut the funding or they put a stop on the funding, that's it. There's no more like, I'm gonna get someone who knows about immigration laws and is gonna give me that guidance that I need. And then you have, of course, right inside of the detention center, pretty sure they're going to be like, oh yeah, we have these guys. Rene used to come in and he was really good with his presentations. But we haven't seen him anymore. Like, that's it. Like, he stopped coming in. Can you imagine how they feel like now what? Like, who's going to help me?
Right.
And ICE agents or whoever is at the facilities, they know so much about immigration law. I guess their mind or like their knowledge is based on enforcement, like arresting and prosecuting and stuff like that. So their knowledge when it comes to immigration law as an attorney or as a like LOP rep, it's way different, right? So there is so much information they can do, and of course there's really nice ICE agents, but there's some of them that are like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. And some of them that don't speak the language, don't speak Spanish. So I could just imagine their face like, oh man, like now who's going to come here and help me? Who's going to give me that information? Who's going to represent me? Who's going to take me in front of the judge?
Right.
So that's why I want to like emphasize on that point that cutting funding doesn't affect just Estrella del Paso, it affects thousands of lives
Yeah.
who depend on the right information, on the right time, and the right representation. I want to just point that out.
Yeah, when we're talking about the capacity too, like this is what when you were mentioning funding, that part it's government funding, but that is the reason why we do so many fundraisers and a call for donations, because it helps fund a lot of these programs, a lot of these services, and even pro bono attorneys, right?
Right.
Like if you can come in and help our team of attorneys get through those cases so that they're able to accept more cases and take and help
Exactly.
more people, then there are multiple ways to kind of
Absolutely.
help and fund
Absolutely.
this.
Yes. There's only one way, and we invite you guys to check out the work we do through our social media, through our website, and see that lives change, and we
Right.
do put like a little grain of salt when it comes to helping those who need it. So okay, now moving back to the actual topic. So Alejandro, I know ICH is not as old or like as old as LOP. So what is like a daily duty, or how does the day of an ICH representative looks?
Okay. Like Rene mentioned, we also prepare the day before. So the court provides a docket, which is the list of the people of the respondents who are gonna appear in court the next day. So there you can see how many responders you have, how many are represented, so you can estimate how many people you are potentially gonna see the next day, how many people you're gonna potentially refer here to the office.
Okay.
So we get there in the morning. There's usually courts, one court in the morning at 8 in the morning, then one around 10, one around 1, and then usually there's no courts after 1, but sometimes there are. So
depends.
that depends on the day. So we get there in the morning, we see the docket, and then depending on how many people and in which court the respondents are, we divide in groups. So one caseworker does the GIS, that's the Generalized Information Session. That's like a
group orientation.
like a group orientation where we explain the court procedure, their rights, their legal relief, our services here in the office.
Nice.
We talk to them about asylum, about different forms, employment. It's like a group, a generalized information session.
Nice.
After then, another caseworker does we call it the self-help workshop, where we provide assistance on court documents, filing, anything they need before their hearing or during that day. We provide assistance.
Yeah, and that's like Alex mentioned, right? It's another one of our core services for both units, ICH and LOP. It's the workshops. That is a huge help for these people.
It's like a study day before going to a test.
Honestly, it is. It is a classroom, right? We help them, filling these forms. We explain the process. With you guys with motions of change of venue and change of addresses, and us, with the motions for release, like the bond or parole request. So those services are very important, and then they're very, very helpful.
So, Alex, what kind of services we provide? I know we mentioned some of them, that you guys go to court and then like a group setting. But what other like services, or what are the most common services we offer when a client goes to you guys inside of the courts?
In the ICH, it will be assistance with court documents, especially the change of address. Many people don't know that they have to submit a change of address. Many people, unfortunately, have received removal orders just because they didn't submit a change of address form in time, but just because they didn't know they had to submit a change of address form. So that will be I guess the self-help workshop is one of the main
services
after the GIS. So assistance with court documents and filing. And then after that, I would say the assistance with the asylum applications,
bet.
filing and filing the I-589 form.
Mhm.
That will be one of the main services we provide.
That people
Right.
ask for help
Mhm.
with. Yeah.
That's nice.
And going back to how this is so complicated, the court system, the immigration court system, especially all the forms, and we're not super familiar with it. There's a member of ICH, Luis, who told us a story about someone who he helped who had his court hearing in El Paso. He moves to Atlanta and doesn't know, or he knew he had to do a change of address to get his case assigned to a court closer to Atlanta. And he said that he tried to get an attorney in Atlanta to help him do this change of address, which you guys do for free to help him.
Clarifying.
Yeah,
for free,
we
yes.
do that for free. And he said an attorney was charging him $1,000 to help with the change of address. So he said, my flight to El Paso to go to my court
Man.
my court hearing is gonna be cheaper than the $1,000. So he books a flight, catches a flight to come back so he doesn't miss court, because again, then you get placed in deportation proceedings.
Right.
So he's like, I'm going to be there. His flight gets canceled. He's on a limited budget because he only has enough money to go and come back, right?
my
So sleeps in the airport, no food, like doesn't eat anything because he's trying to not spend money because he's like, I have to make it to El Paso.
Oh
So
my gosh.
he was in fact placed in deportation proceedings because he missed his court date, because he wasn't there. So of course he's panicking, reaches out to ICH and is like, please help. What can I do? Right. So they were able to help him. They file a motion to first reopen the case because now, now it's more complicated. So they help with that. It gets granted. Great. They're able to help him with that. And then they're able to help him with the change of address. So
Nice.
all of these complications, I don't think people understand how something so simple can really have such an impact, where now you are paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars to either travel, to pay an attorney to make these changes for you, or the alternative is be placed in deportation proceedings. Like, it's insane.
Man, I still can process through my mind, like, how there's no like humane, easier and better ways to do all this. We have technology. And knocking on Elon Musk, we have technology to send rockets close to Mars, to, out of the space, but we don't have the, I guess, capacity to help an individual process a change of address who's out of state, right?
So
and then we have people who charges $1,000 to submit a document that we do for free.
How long does it take to fill out that form, the change of address form?
Not even maybe 10 minutes.
Man,
$100 an hour.
man, right? Like, I would want to get paid $1,000 every 10 minutes.
$100 a minute, I mean, to do that,
That's insane. So it's just like, my mind is just like trying to still put the puzzle together, like see how we haven't gotten to a point where this immigration process is easier, faster, and doesn't complicate people sleeping on the airport with no food, having to being placed in deportation proceedings. Like what's gonna happen? They're gonna take me out of the country. Man, it's just like,
imagine somebody who got here, went through that whole process, maybe was in detention, maybe had worked with LOP, gets released and is like, okay, I'm well on my way, only to end up right back at
where you
square one.
Yeah, because once they get that removal order, sometimes people think like, all right, well, I got my deportation order, right? And I'm just going to go back to my country. Most likely, you're going to be placed back at the detention centers while they arrange your departure.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy.
Like,
right?
okay, right. No,
It's not that easy. Yeah. So, and it happens before. And LOP and ICH, I think they work very well together because there is this bridge also, because as you mentioned, right, once we help them and luckily, they get released on bond or parole, their immigration process doesn't stop there.
Right.
It's just, they just get freedom, right? Now you're in the United States, okay, but your process still, you have to continue to go to court,
right.
And that's where like we also refer them to ICH, and we tell them, can you help this man, this woman? because we heard their stories, we know they're gonna need a change of address or change of venue, right? Because it's not like, oh, okay, my sponsor who's gonna receive me, it's in California and I'm in El Paso. I'm not planning to live in El Paso. Can you guys help me? Like, sure, we have a whole unit for that, you know? And not only that, because now you got to move the court in El Paso to California, and they can do that.
Oh, man, that's
full service
from
here.
A to Z. So one of the things that I wanted to touch base on is like being in court, right? Because you said that sometimes you guys help them with the documentations before they go into the court.
Yes.
Or like a few minutes right before they go with the judge. And that could be intimidating, right? I don't know how many of you guys have gone to court, and I don't think I have never been to court, but like if you guys have been like being in front of a judge, being like surrounded by lawyers or like people, it's like, oh man, like feeling like almost going to jail, right?
You're nervous.
So it's a whole process. And now imagine yourself in a situation where you don't have an attorney because you couldn't afford an immigration attorney. You have to represent yourself. You don't know about the documentation. You're unsure about your case, your process. So Alex, in your perspective, how you think this ICH unit or the LOP unit helps our clients, like specifically or directly when it comes to their processes? Have you seen like anything, like any stories where like, you know, we've helped these clients where like they were like this close to be placed back again on the detention centers, and because we help them with they got in pretty easy?
I can't remember a particular instance, but I do want to say that the way I see it, or the what I saw during my time in ICH, is that we empower people through knowledge. So people are maybe scared, not knowing their options, not knowing the procedure, not knowing that they have options, and that there's organizations like us willing to help and willing to provide them with valuable information.
And you didn't have you seen like any cases where you're like, man, I'm glad we stepped in, because if we were not to be there, this would have been the resolution?
Yeah, no, our team, you know, there's 8 of us, and we all have different stories. You know, we all have our success stories, you know, that we share with y'all. Particularly me, like I can remember 2 cases where I feel like, okay, we really, as a team, we really made a difference. And one of them, going back to our core services, right? It's the service that we provide of referring those cases to the removal unit, which is the attorneys. It was this Colombian, you know, girl who, you know, you can just imagine the things that she had to go through, right? Just to come here for a better life, because her country couldn't protect her. And she did it twice, because the first time she came, you know, ICE didn't believe her. So they sent her back. The first time it wasn't that bad, but the second time it got worse. You know, now she's a victim, right? So now she comes back, and the removal unit were able to represent her and grant her, you know, her removal withholding, which is part of the asylum, right? So definitely, I mean, it's you can imagine how she feels, right? And now she has an opportunity. You know, she's safe, she's protected. And another one is one of mine that it's like I mentioned before, right? What happens when like the attorneys can't take your case?
Right.
Well, it's up to us to keep helping them. And this special and it's funny because he's from Colombia. It's a male, humble farmer, you know, and
nice guy.
I helped them pretty much with contact with family, gather the documents, with translating, helping filling the asylum application, you know, at a very extended court process, right? Because it's not only one. People think it's just one court. No, it's plenty of them, you know, probably 2, 5, 6.
I wish it was just one court.
Right? And then at the very end, you know, one time, you know, I bumped him into the Tero, and he told me the good news. He's all like, he showed me his grant order.
Oh, that's great.
And he was granted asylum.
What?
He was granted asylum, and he was happy, and he was very thankful, you know. So that small victory, it means a lot to us, you know. It's just motivation to keep going.
And it's the perfect example to everyone out there that there's hope, and there's people willing to help you, people willing to do the legwork with you, grab your hand and take you to through the path that is called the immigration process or immigration courts in the U.S. Right?
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say to the people, so we at the in the ICH we also work with the court. So people, the court is not allowed to help the respondents, but
Right.
they are allowed to guide us. So that's
And how
also
to help
valuable
nice
information. There's a saying in Spanish, preguntando se llega a Roma.
Right.
So people, well, I encourage respondents to come to us and ask, because we do. I mean, we can't unfortunately represent everyone,
Right.
but we
Correct.
can provide very valuable information. We do have an accredited representative supervisor, Jessica Gomez. We do have a very experienced caseworker, Luis, Johnny, Jess, Betty, who
Nice.
are able to provide very valuable information. People will be surprised, the options that they have.
I agree. I think that these programs have bipartisan support. So both Democrats and Republicans have historically supported these programs. One, because if LOP can help get out of detention, that saves the government money when they're not detaining someone, right? There are fewer people that it saves the government money. But another component of that is it does help the court flow more efficiently. Like, how have you seen the ICH services make that process flow easier for people going in and out of the courts?
I mean, we prepare people to for their court hearings.
Right.
We help them prepare their documents, have them ready. We explain to them what's going to happen, where they have to be, who they have to talk to. We explain to them who's going to be inside the court. We explain to them who's the judge is, what the judge can do, who's the interpreter. We explain to them who the government for the attorney is, who is inside the court. We explain to them the process, because many people have the misconception that the decision is going to be taken right there and then, and that's not the case.
Right.
It's a process. It takes time. So empowerment through knowledge, we help them is of the fear. We've also created a good relationship with the court where they come to us for assistance. They refer people to us. That's really good.
It's a great team effort.
Man, no, that's impressive and it's amazing. Going back to the classroom analogy, right? It's like help you guys provide even for the judge is like having your students already come with their homework ready to take that test. It's like, man, like a walk in the park, right? Rather than having someone who's like not prepared, who's missing documentation, who's not as knowledgeable as you guys are when you guys give them that information. Probably the judge is like, oh man, like I have to now ask this many more questions to get to this point or to get this information. Versus when you guys help them out, it's like, okay, guys, I know you guys were helped by Estrella del Paso. Let's bring out documents, and you guys are ready to be taken in this course. So,
and at least, I mean, they're still going to be nervous, right? It's still an intimidating process, but at least they're more confident in what they know.
Yeah. Right.
When the services were shut down, we had a woman reach out to who we spoke with, and we can link the article. She did an interview with the Associated Press, in which she talked about is that ICH has been helping her with her asylum documents, right? So they've been helping her with this process, and she's from Venezuela, so she's fleeing government persecution, and so she's here by herself. And so she kind of relied on just showing up to the courthouse and seeing this team of people there when she had hearings or follow-ups or something that she needed to do. So she went one day and she's like, there's no one here. There was no warning that there was no one was going to be here. And she asked, hey, where did this team go? And they said, oh, well, they're not coming. For how long? We don't know, because nobody knew. And it was maybe a week without the services.
Yeah,
Is that how you would say?
Technically 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh, like
2
the
weeks.
weekdays. Yeah. And so imagine this help that you come to rely on disappears one day to the next, no explanation. And this woman got really emotional, and she was crying on this phone call because she said, I'm already here in this country alone. And now I feel completely alone. I feel so alone in this process because how do I do that? So I think that it really just puts into perspective how important these services are for so many people. And they really do see that as their only way to stay afloat, like the only way to navigate this process.
And you mentioned, right, like it's I mean, it's like you mentioned, we're a team I don't know, like I don't even want to say like it's like I don't consider myself a superhero, right? But
No, you kind of are.
but there is, but we are a task force, right? And our task is to help as many people as we can, and at LOP, I mean, the 8 of us, like you mentioned, right? Like they feel like they can trust us, they know us, they're feel confident, with us. They know that we have their backs,
Right.
and they know everyone's names, because we all help each other. It's honestly like it's like a team. Like it seems like that we go and we know what to do and we try our best. And also it's been proven to speed up the process also.
Yeah.
So the judges or the courts, like Kristen was saying, like they're like, okay, that's more easy. They're more prepared, they're more educated. They know what they need to do.
Right.
Right. And the people in detention, at least they know like, okay, well, now I know that I might have a chance to fight this case, or maybe it's better for me just to accept my deportation and just go back to my home country.
Right.
And the services that we provide, they're direct to that, for them to make their best decision.
Whatever's best for their
Whatever's best for
situation.
them,
Yeah.
Man, I wish life was that easy for me to have you guys next to me all the time and help me make my
Please
decisions.
decide my life, thank you.
Right?
Okay.
Should I buy this car or not?
And I think one of the reasons that's really primarily one of the biggest reasons for this lawsuit. Now, although the services have resumed, part of the reason for the lawsuit is to make sure that this doesn't happen again, that it's not so easy for that to happen again, so that these services can continue and be uninterrupted. And also the call for this is why those donations are so important. So if for whatever reason the government says we're not going to pay for this, as an organization, we can still say, let's figure out how we can still do these services, even if the government's not going to help.
Right,
be a
because
part of it.
when the government cut the funding, right, obviously because we have a great management team, we had savings where we can tap in to help you guys and help our clients.
Right.
But savings can get you through so long, right? There's a point where savings are empty, right? So our lawsuit still stands, because we want to make sure that we don't have cases like the lady that you were telling us that she came here and then she didn't see anyone. There was no help available for her, right? We want to avoid cases like that, because it was a lady this time. It could be a kid later on. It could be a young adult, or it could be a senior who's here arriving, and then they already have the mentality that, oh, Rene, he's going to be there at 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
8:05 sometimes. 8 in the morning, right? No, I'm just kidding.
8:05.
Right, no. But I know Rene's going to be there to help me out. He's going to help me with my documentation. People like Alex is going to help me with my change of address. And they get there and there's no one. Like, man, like, what am I going to do, right? So this call is for people to support us, in the sense that we are needed. There's a need in our community, a huge need in our community. And stopping the funding and stopping us helping those doesn't help, or doesn't eliminate the need in our community, right? There are still people needing our services, our help. So this is a call for, like, hey, you know what? We need your help. Calling your Congress.
Yeah.
Sharing, raising your voices, helping us with donations to replenish that savings that we had. And if the event is were to happen again, we're again ready to and prepared to fight and continue the knowledge and continue serving our community.
Yeah. That was a great conversation. That was a lot. That was a lot. This is a longer episode than usual, but I think it was important to talk about these two programs and those really important services and just really how they impact people, because I think these are the lesser known programs.
So you're also like in the shadows.
The behind the scenes.
Right.
We're technically Batman.
Like, exactly. You guys even have a superhero as a logo, man. You guys, for me, are superheroes too. So anything we missed to add for you guys? Anything you guys want to add to the end of it?
Alex,
guys, I mean, we're ultimately a law firm. We decided to do justice through immigration, so that's what we will continue to do.
Absolutely.
If not through representation, at least through very valuable information.
You said it right.
Yep.
You said it right.
Yeah. I mean, just, he said it, but it's just we do this, with a mentality of helping as much as people as we can, and just to have a fair chance.
Absolutely.
That's what a lot of people in the States is that they don't understand, or they might think of immigrants like as less people just because they don't have our rights. How come people are helping them?
Yeah.
Well, because they're humans, and they're
Right.
also are seeking help.
Right.
And we have rights,
And
for sure.
like Sandra said, it's just the due process, right?
Absolutely.
So it's good to know that they know that they're not alone.
Absolutely.
They're not alone, and that they can count on Estrella del Paso because we're gonna be here for them,
Ah,
and we're gonna fight their fight.
Man, you empowered me. It wasn't our intention to get this emotional on the end of the podcast, but man, you said it beautifully.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And I couldn't close our podcast with a better statement than that.
Yep.
So once again, we invite you guys to check out our information in our website and our social media. Support us in the ways you can support Estrella del Paso. And once again, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Rene, for taking your time.
Thank you, Christian and Sandra.
Guys.
No, thank you for taking
you,
your
guys.
superhero time because it's valuable and it's important, and we are you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
This is the Amor al Migrante podcast, Love for the Migrant, a project of Estrella del Paso, the largest provider of free immigration legal services in West Texas and southern New Mexico. This podcast is coming to you from El Paso, Texas, hosted by Sandra Ramirez and Cristian Trujillo. Please subscribe to the Amor al Migrante podcast to be alerted about new episodes, and visit www.estrelladelpaso.org to support our work on the southern border.